Hi everyone, and welcome to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. My name's Adam Sykes from SwiftCase, the professional productivity platform, and today we've got with us
Craig McCarthy, Development Manager at SwiftCase.
Phil Whitby, Developer at SwiftCase.
Kevin Bill, Director at Westminster Associates, North America.
And Paul Thompson, Director of Westminster Associates in the rest of the world.
Great, so thanks guys for coming in.
What?
It's nice to meet you, Kevin, today. And
Great to be here.
Paul's been with us before, and it was a great podcast last time, so we're really looking forward to this one. So I suppose really just to kick off, if you could tell us a bit more about what you do and what your business does and how they help.
Well, our basic business model is we help people and teams learn to communicate and adapt with one another. What we do at the very basic level is we get people talking to one another and to learn how they prefer to work, how they prefer to communicate with one another, and really start a dialogue with them and give them a common language and a common understanding of what it looks like to be a team and what it looks like for them in the workplace on a day-to-day basis. And then we build on that with individuals, with teams, to a higher level with leadership and team development and leadership development on top of that as well. And it's all based on the work of Carl Jung using the Insights Discovery model, which is a company based out of Dundee.
Yeah.
Nearby,
Okay.
yes.
Nearby.
Yes.
Nearby. In US terms. It's very far away in UK terms.
It's Dundee.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think the other piece of the jigsaw is as well, is that once we understand ourselves and our teams and our leaders understand the people that are working from them, we can start to understand our customers a little bit more as well.
Absolutely.
So there's an internal and an external lens. Customers from a support perspective, from a sales perspective, that's quite a key one, because understanding who you're selling to, I think, can make the world of difference in terms of whether or not you get the sale.
Yeah, I think, like you said, from a support point of view,
Yes.
it's great to be talking on the same level. If someone because that's when someone's frustrated, and if you're, like me, I'm a fiery red, and you're just battering them with things that they need to do. You need to do this, and this. Have you tried this, and this first? And they just want it all written out, or they're hand holding through the process or something. You've got to. I suppose that can really be beneficial to
Absolutely.
open your eyes.
It's the idea too of there's things you think that are happening internally, and there's things you think your customers are seeing. When you talk to the customers who are experiencing your company, you'll find that everything is great about your company, or might be a weak point for your company. Your customers are experiencing that exact experience the same way too. It can almost be a blind spot for you. You don't know what you're not good at sometimes, or what your possible areas for improvement could be. So it's interesting to have those dialogues and really see what it looks like, or even parts of the team may not understand, like, this would work better if we did this differently, but we don't even know what that looks like for us. We may be very good at getting things done, but maybe we're not so good at sharing our common vision for the company as well too. This can happen especially in smaller startups, especially in the Bay Area, which I think we'll talk about a bit more too. But it's very interesting to see their perception of themselves as well. A lot of what we talk about is perception, how they're perceived and how they're perceived internally, and how other people may be perceiving a person or a small organization as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned it, should we maybe explore that? So obviously, like you said, you work out of the US,
Mm-hmm.
and Paul and ourselves are mainly UK-based companies.
Yeah.
So what do you think the main differences are about the approach to business and teamwork across the two different places?
And to put this in context too, Paul's worked in the US too, so he was working in the US and has a large amount of experience working in the US, especially in the Bay Area where I'm from, with startups. I would say the difference for me is the marketplace right now is so go forward motion. Everything's a startup. Everyone is it's really a gold rush right now in the Bay Area. Again, I think unemployment is now at the lowest level it's been in 40 years. It's a problem now of starting your company, finding the people to work for your company. Actually, which is interesting for us, it's not a question of finding money so much. Financing is there, and it's actually more a question of finding the right people to run your company and understanding how to build that as well. So the difference I would see is many of the companies are smaller and newer, and it's very much an idea of time is money. The investors will come in and give them the financing to do what they need, but it's also very important that they get the results they need to have very quickly, because there's so many shiny objects, if you will, of companies coming in. They say it's for every 10 companies that happen, 6 will go out of business in 2 or 3 years. 3 will kind of make it, probably get bought by someone else, and 1 will be the unicorn.
Yeah.
We're not even they'll be successful. The unicorns are the Ubers of the world, the Airbnb, the ones that Airbnb was an afterthought, Uber was an afterthought. It kind of happened on the side of another project, apparently. Thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could get cars online?
Yeah.
And now it just went public. So what I'm seeing is the speed with which things are happening compared to here, and the size of companies. It's very small, very agile, very lean companies in the marketplace too. And the idea of getting people to work on their teams can be interesting. It's the idea of getting them to stop long enough to take a step back. They always, can you do it in 2 hours instead of 8? It's you can do something, but you're not going to get. It's how whatever you invest, you get back.
Yeah.
So for I would say the difference really is the size and the speed with which things happen, and the speed with which change needs to happen here.
Yeah.
The longer term is not always there. That happens later when you get to a bit of growth. You've been around a few years. You're up to like 100 employees, 150 employees. We would call that sweet spot of 150 to 200 employees, where you can kind of see the future going on down the road too.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think the outside of London, the UK is still quite regionalised to a degree, and I mean that in terms probably the diversity of culture and individuals that work for an organisation. And I may be wrong, there'll always be organisations that are exceptionally diverse. In San Francisco for me, and I worked there really from 2012 until a couple of years ago when we incorporated there. So my air miles are a lot less now, and my jet lag is a lot less as well. But San Francisco is almost a microcosm of the globe because there's been a huge influx. It's like the Emerald City. It's like the Oz, I think, of the world. Everybody flocks there and tells their friends. So I think you've got a couple of things going on. You've got people that are highly academic, but you find people with big job titles and big teams quite young in career.
Yes.
But regardless of how academic they are, they just don't have the successes and failures to, behind them to show them what good leadership or being a good team player is. Culture is another big one. When you get an influx of individuals from all over the world to a centre point, we will have different ways of being, of behaving, of values and beliefs. Because of where we come from. And even the density, some of the conversations we've had with venture capitalists that obviously invest in a lot of the startups there, everybody's got money to give the next unicorn, so the VCs are now trying to differentiate themselves in terms of why choose us.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know whether you guys watch. I watch the comedy show Silicon Valley. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's ringing a few bells. It's fairly accurate from the.
It's painfully funny for a lot of people because it's actually their life on TV.
Yeah.
It's one of those shows that you think that can't be, but that's exactly what it is.
It's definitely ringing bells. The idea that someone who's maybe a tech guy, because we're a tech company, who's no experience in management, has suddenly got millions of dollars to put together a project and got venture capitalists to answer to.
And that's exactly what happens. There's this euphoria, I think, as soon as we've gotten our Series A round of funding, and great, we've gotten $10 million, and then there's the sheer panic moment about a few months later when they realize how quickly $10 million can go when you're running a company, and what that looks like, and how quickly you need to get a result concept to product marketplace too. It's the idea Paul was talking about too. Everyone you've gotten the title. You may be very good at this development part of the phase, but suddenly you're not running. It's not you and 2 other people running a concept. It's you running a team. It's I call it the difference between leadership and management. So you can manage a process, but the idea of leading a company is a completely different job, and it's thrust upon you very quickly. I worked for years in investment banking, which is very structured. There's very much a hierarchy. You have 4 levels of analyst, associate, vice president, managing director, and it's very clear how you work through those, and they kind of advance you when you're ready.
Yeah.
And there's a nurturing phase, if that's the word. It's more like boot camp,
Yeah.
but there's a phase you go through.
Hazing.
Yeah, it's clear when you're ready, and what the difference there is. It's very analytical in the beginning. It's all about, can you crunch numbers, do the math, and analyze the deals. To at the very top, it's all about relationships you create with your clients. So the transition and the learning of both happens throughout your career over probably a period of 15 years. These startups, that happens in 15 weeks.
Yeah.
You've said, and that's where we come in too, and it's even them. It's the idea of getting them to see the value, if we will, of talking with us and learning this and seeing what that looks like. It's even seeing what does that look like to run a team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting conversation now with the venture capitalists now. More and more in the last 2 years, we're seeing the idea of what does that, how do you work with these teams? Before it was just, we've got the money and we're the best and we did these things, so you should work with us. Now they know it's a process. They need to go in and work with these companies, give them these tools to develop it, and have somebody with experience running a company, running sales, running marketing, running teams, running people, work with these people alongside the product development.
Yeah.
So it's
interesting as well. It's and just kind of sparking off some of the things Kevin is saying. We were in a local school yesterday chatting with the head, and Kevin asked him, what is the most important thing when you recruit new teaching staff? And he straight away said personality. Straight away.
Yeah.
And Kevin asked one of the VCs that we know within our network in San Francisco, when you are investing, is it the product of the person? He said the person every single time for the first series of investment. So, again, when what you do is all about behaviour, which is part of kind of what makes up our personality, it's
and I think that's a shift too.
yeah, it is a shift.
Yeah.
It is a shift. It's like the age-old adage that you will hire someone based on their experience and their academic track record, their work-based professional qualifications. They'll start the job and upset the entire team on day one. It's that fit is becoming more and more important.
I think, especially as you say, same for our business, when it's a small team and you're getting started, one person can cause a massive difference. It could be a tenth of your workforce, couldn't it? Is a problem.
Oh yeah, and they say your team is only as great as the weakest link.
Yeah, true.
It's that idea of if you're allowing that behavior to occur, that's the level at which you're. And believe me, it will lower to that level. It won't raise up. It's much easier to lower down.
True.
That's where the gossipy water cooler conversation might happen as well.
Yeah.
I saw a clip online recently, and forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's out there online a lot talking about what makes companies grow and go fast.
Yeah.
Is get rid of the toxic employees.
Yeah.
And find out what motivates people, what
Yeah.
gets people out of bed in the morning. And if you can do that, and our experiences, we've seen that. Some of the best chief executives that we work with, and some of the best leaders and best team members and best individuals we work with are. My English teacher told me never to use the word nice when I was at school, but they're just genuinely decent human beings that obviously can do the job as well.
Yes.
Authenticity.
So maybe if you're being treated well, then you will, as a consequence, treat others well, including customers or others around you.
Exactly.
So maybe like that kind of, we've read and talked about this before, but like that successful companies start with prioritising employees, and they also then happen to have excellent customer service without ever having to focus on customer service. Because those people, their employees, being treated well, they feel good, they become nice people.
It's the culture, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
having a great work culture. And I think, like you said, just picking up on what comment you made then, a team is made up of individuals, and how you, as a leader, I suppose, how you work with different individuals to facilitate the team working together is important. One of the things we did yesterday was we put together our first sort of profit share sort of scheme in the business. So all the employees now share in the profits of the business. And the comments that we got back were completely different from different people. I won't name names, but some people were more like, let's grow the numbers, because if I grow the numbers, I'm going to be getting them. Others were more interested in how transparent the process was, and the fact that you've engaged with us and it's inclusive. and people are different, and the way you deal with people and understanding those relationships is key to running a successful business. And I think that's where, you know, your guys, and I've been on the you know, certainly one of the sessions with Paul. It's so important. I learned so much. You know, it was one day, wasn't it? And you learn so much, and there's so much more that could be explored, that can benefit. But I suppose, like you said earlier, it's how to make businesses understand. It's the same for our business, that an investment of time now is going to pay so much off, you know, in the future term, isn't it?
It's like you could spend an hour interviewing someone,
but
really that's wasted time if you just think, this is a necessity, I've got to get out of the way. 2 days, a day or 2 days, making sure, doing research about the person is far better investment of time than spending weeks or months trying to get rid of them when you realise they don't fit.
Oh yeah, never hire anyone for a short-term solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen frequently. Never hire someone because you need someone quickly. It's better to have the position empty and just wait, because if you hire the wrong person, they're usually the ones that like to stay. And then you've got your man. And to your point, interviewing too. It's a bit like, to relate to the customer experience. When you interview someone, you'll get the very first 15 minutes, I find, are they've got their tie straightened and they're in the suit, and the longer the interview goes on, the more they'll become relaxed and share, and your customers will have that same experience too. You may be able to put a trade show presentation on it and have that. The more they deal with you, the more they will see. Exactly. And that's when the great experience is the more they see you, the more impressed they become.
Hopefully, yeah.
And it's very much about hiring people and hiring the right people and the right fit. I hired a lot of people throughout my years, and I've always hired based on the person. If I know if there's something they may need to learn, I know I can teach that to them eventually. Absolutely. And if they have the capacity to learn, the willingness to learn, I can. It's the soft skills, it's the emotional skills, it's the attitude and their approach to work and to the job that I always interviewed for and hired for, and always worked to. I worked at banking for years, and it was very much the place I worked was Goldman Sachs, but they're years ago, but they were very much focused on their culture of how are our customers treated, how do we work internally, how do we collaborate together. It's a place where when you ask someone to do something, you could call anybody anywhere in the company, anywhere in the world, and you would just assume they would be willing to help you with it, and they would get back to you and it would be done. And people love doing that too, because everybody everywhere pulled together for the benefit of the customer around the globe. But they never explicitly put that out in anything they ever wrote, but it was very clear that was the expectation. It's because the expectation was just kind of the work ethic of the entire company. And it functioned extremely well, and it's again the hiring the right person who's going to fit in and be a part of that job. It can be a non-stop job, and it's a job where you can probably do it for a part of your career, and eventually that expectation can wear on you over the years too. But when it works really well. And I've seen the opposite happen too. When it doesn't work well, it falls apart. Yeah.
It sounds very much like teaching and healthcare to me as well. Yeah. Those. So unfortunately, in those environments, it takes advantage. Like, a lot of the institutions will take advantage of that. I don't know. So the expectation to work outside of hours at home.
Yes.
Go the extra mile because there's no formal process. Yeah. That's recognised because that costs money. But that people would still stay because of their devotion to that cause.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well, because one of the chief execs that we worked with, he took his company to a very lucrative acquisition as a startup, so he's now enjoying the benefits of that and doing some part-time advisory work. But when I introduced him to Kevin, because I'd owned the relationship really in the early days, without knowing Kevin had worked for Goldman, obviously he's now got the luxury of being able to make investments, and he started to talk about Goldman and how it felt to be a customer of Goldman. And without knowing that link, he echoed everything that Kevin's just said in terms of you feel really looked after. You know, we're pack animals at the end of the day, I think. You know, and a lot of what we do, a lot of the psychology that exists out there in business is based on child psychology. Monkey see, monkey do. And if you put on the naughty step, you know, it's rewards and penalties. And I think if you've got leaders that are yelling at their teams, guess what their teams do with their customers? Maybe they don't yell, but you see a manifestation.
Of stress, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And a lack of desire to really support, I think. But if you support your people, they're more likely going to want to do that with their customers as well.
Okay, and just one final question I think you want to ask, if you ask Paul this, is what's the most dramatic change you've seen from the work you've done with a company? You don't have to name names, but you think of a dramatic change that you put you on the spot.
I think that I wouldn't put it at a company, I would put it at the level of someone who comes into a session very skeptical.
Yeah.
And the first couple hours is probably sitting there thinking, with their arms crossed, thinking, no, this is just poppycock, and this is a waste of time. And then there's a moment when
a light switch moment.
Yeah, and I had one a couple weeks ago. It was, well, this is just whatever, and and then there's a moment when you correlate that to their business and say, well, you're a manager of a team with another thing of this. You may think this, but the way our model works, and I can correlate this to your day-to-day operations, and you can literally see them lean forward and go, wait, what? Because suddenly that thing that they haven't been able to put a name on or a definition to, they completely understand why there's an issue with the way their team is operating or what could be better with their team. Yeah. It's that moment of understanding, oh wow, okay, I understand myself now, that makes sense, I do that. And the rest of my team is experiencing this. And one thing you'll find is people tend to hire in their own image too. Mm-hmm. So it's the understanding of what will balance their team out and what will actually make their team more balanced. And it's the idea of someone going too quickly and moving too forward. We'll hire people like that when they may need somebody who's going to slow them down just a bit and say, wait, is this the way we should be going? And they'll know they need that, but to give it a name to it and give a definition to it and let them see what it looks like, that's the real change, I would say. It does happen on team levels, but really specifically happens on an individual level, and that is the kernel, that is the seed of where that change is going to happen. Because when that person is on board and has had that moment, that will spread throughout their entire team. They're the ones who will come up and say, "Wow, I'd like to do the rest of my team with this too." So we get the moment of, so they all can experience this too, and are all on the same page with this as well.
I call that's when you've got them.
Yeah.
Moments. And it's interesting because in my experience of now doing this for 15 years, your biggest skeptics, when you get that turnaround, normally become your biggest sponsors from a client's perspective. I've got one, and I don't know if I shared this last time, but just briefly. We had a chief marketing officer sit back, go white, and almost slide off their seat as we started to introduce the model. It was almost like a cartoon where somebody slid off their seat, because we're in a fortunate position in that we had a lot of data from their customer, one of their biggest customers. Their customer had said, share it with them. It'll be useful. So we had data on the supplier and the customer. When I say data, I mean the way people prefer to behave. And she realised and she verbalised our entire marketing strategy is wrong. Because they were marketing in a very big bells and whistles, here we are, buy from us kind of way. And their customer base were a much more reflective, data-driven decision-making kind of individual. And they totally re-engineered their website. So it was all ROI calculators rather than starbursts and flashing lights.
That really is a dramatic change then, isn't it?
And she still quotes that as a defining moment as she sat with her executive peers. And she's the most wonderful, driven, animated individual that probably we've both ever met. And when she went quiet, we knew there was a potential challenge.
That's great that she was open to revise something so significant.
I suppose that's the first step, isn't it, though, being open.
That moment when she realised, though, this all correlates.
I think when you see your own profile and you start recognising things, that just gives you the sort of the proof and the reassurance that if they know that much about me, then
I suppose there's
got to be something in this, hasn't there?
I think sometimes there's almost a hesitation. I don't say they're scared, but it might rock their world a little bit too if you know a little bit too much about me. It's vulnerability. It's vulnerability.
Ignorance is bliss.
So, they're in their happy space of it's going. I'm doing it the way I like to do it. If we change, I might have to change myself, and that might not feel comfortable for me. We have a mutual friend who we joke with him. He's like, he calls it our silly color stuff. But over the last few months, I think he's like, wait, what? But it's people, you can almost tell where they're going to plot in the model by the way they're already reacting to it before you do it. I've had people trying to convince me they're one thing, being they're actually the way they're actually trying to convince me there's something is showing me the actual opposite. Yeah.
So a backstage and backstage personas, isn't it? It's like your backstage. You think your backstage persona is hidden, but what you choose to put from stage reveals that.
Yeah.
And I think it's that fear that your backstage is going to be revealed, isn't it?
People know this as well. I mean, Adam, you've been through it, and I think, just to square the circle here, it's not that scary. That profile just measures behavioural preferred ways of working at work on most days, most of the time. It doesn't dig into anything other than that. No. I think it's interesting when people are scared of what it's going to show, especially because it's a self-score questionnaire. But and we know all of this. We're pretty sophisticated as human beings. We've survived for a long time. All we do, and the Insights Discovery model does, is just give people a peg to hang things on, things they knew already, and a common language to have a dialogue that either they've not known how to have, they've not had a language to have, or they've tried to have and it's got a little bit awkward.
And just a side note, the only people that see your profile are you. You don't have to share anything from it you don't want to share.
You can, you get a lot of value if you do.
A lot of people do,
but it's up to you.
There are people who've gotten, I don't want to.
So if people want to find out more, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
I think the typical routes of www.westminster-associates.com.
Yes.
We'll put a link.
We'll put a link.
It's right there.
It's right there.
And we're happy to talk. It's good to talk. Yes. We're all about getting people talking to one another. So it costs nothing to talk.
Yeah.
Right. We'll put either of us in contact, US or UK.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming in today. It's been
lovely.
A pleasure to have you both.
Fantastic.
So it's been a great podcast. So thank you. Thanks for listening to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. I've been Adam Sykes, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Don't forget to leave a comment below.
And check out our website, swiftcase.co.uk, or follow us on social media at SwiftCase UK for more information about what we do.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys.